Thank you, Caoirlig. This relates to the use in the family law courts of a disgraceful and disgraced formula invented by a gentleman in the United States some years ago, and which is now used as a means of resolving and readjusting the minds of parents and children in the event of a divorce or separation.
Gormaicad, Caoirlig, and thank you, Deputy Durkan, for raising this issue that I know you feel very strongly about. As the Deputy is aware, the courts are subject only to the Constitution and the law, independent in the exercise of their judicial functions, and the conduct of any court case is a matter entirely for the presiding judge. On the 16th of November, Minister McEntee published the first National Family Justice Strategy and secured government approval for the Family Courts Bill 2022, which was published on the 1st of December. These are the mechanisms by which it is intended to reform how our family justice system operates to make it more supportive and protective when there are vulnerable parties, particularly in cases where there is a history of domestic violence. It will also make it more efficient and user-friendly and significantly less adversarial. The aim is to develop a system that puts the family at the centre of its work and that protects vulnerable parties throughout proceedings. To support the legislative changes proposed in the Family Courts Bill, Minister McEntee established a Family Justice Oversight Group to develop the first national strategy. The work of the group was informed by a wide-ranging consultation process which heard from the voices of those most impacted by their experience of the system. The strategy has 9 goals and over 50 actions, with the aim of establishing a strong foundation for a future system which is more child and family centred, which supports and protects, and which is more streamlined and user-friendly. As the Deputy may be aware, under the Government's new zero-tolerance domestic sexual and gender-based violence strategy, the child is recognised as a victim or survivor of domestic violence in their own right for the first time. This will be an important link across to the Family Justice Strategy, the first goal of which is supporting children, and which includes as a priority an action to examine the role of expert reports in the family law process and make recommendations regarding their future applications and function. This action will consider the commissioning and availability of these reports.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy Durkan.
Thank you, Minister. I very much for that detailed reply, and I acknowledge the work of Minister McEntee in the area as well. However, there is a problem, and it's a matter of urgency. What to do about the children who have been before the courts and their mothers who have been before the courts, or their fathers, as the case may be, where in some cases, the Gardai were ordered by the court to go into the classroom and take the children out and place them in the hands of the person from whom the children were taken previously. To say the least of it, it's a contradiction. I think it's a very dangerous thing. And the unfortunate part is the use of Section 47, which is drawn from Dr. Richard Gardner's proposals in the United States, discredited proposals, and which, to my mind, are disgraceful in the sense that children and their mothers in particular are left crying in the court, and in some cases, and at least one case, more cases, the mother was placed in a cell while the matter was being discussed.
Thank you, Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Deputy. And you know, the case that you talk about there is very difficult situations here, and what we want to see is that the child is put at the centre, and that's important, that the child's needs and the child is considered. And you know, situations where children are, that you've mentioned, where children are taken out of school, is not that to me doesn't sound to be a good place for any child to be placed in. Can I just say that I've asked my officials to prioritise this action, the action in relation to the Family Justice Strategy, which is supporting children, and which includes as a priority an action to examine the role of expert reports in the family law process, and make recommendations regarding their future application and function. So the action will consider the commissioning and the availability of these reports, including their consent and future use. And I asked my officials to prioritise them. And you've raised this with me, and I said it today. And you know, that work will be led in early 2023 by the Department of Justice, working closely with the Department of Children, Equality, Disability, Integration and Youth. It's envisaged that the recommendations arising from the examination will enable the system to clearly hear the voice of children, to ensure that they are supported in their own right and that their safety, security and best interests are paramount. And they're not allowed to be used as pawns in what can be very difficult
Thank you, Minister. Deputy Durkan.
and acrimonious situations.
Thank you, Minister. The sad and tragic fact in these type of situations is not only are the children treated as pawns, but they're also treated in the way that previous generations treated children in concentration camps, whereby their minds are taken to be reformed, to be reoriented in such a way that they will see a disadvantage being an advantage, and vice versa, which leads to a situation, obviously, of confusion, but terrible trauma insofar as the mothers are concerned. And some mothers have been separated forcibly from their children for up to 3 and 4 years in order to prove a point. Obviously, in the case of vindictiveness, these kind of things will happen. But worst of all, the reports, the Section 47 reports, are not being questioned, or no allowance for cross-questioning at all. And that has to stop as a matter of urgency.
Thank you. Deputy Jennifer Carroll McNeill.
Thank you, Caoirleach, and thank you, Minister, and I thank the Deputy Durkan for raising this point. This was the first thing I spoke on the Dáil, was the importance of having assessors who were trained in coercive control and other coercive behaviours in relation to Section 47 reports, that they would have the capacity to understand manipulation where it exists. And indeed, the Justice Committee has just considered these points and more broad questions around enforcement of custody and access, but particularly the very insidious use of our court structure to further coercive or manipulating behaviour of another parent of either gender, using the Irish state's court system to do that, and the difficult nature of protecting children in those circumstances. Some steps have been taken which are welcome, but I think it needs to go much further to protect in the new family law system against the use of coercive and manipulative behaviours throughout the whole family court structure.
Thank you, Deputy. Minister, your final reply.
Thank you. And can I just say that, you know, Minister McEntee announced the new family justice system that's been put in place, and I think that particular system will improve the situation. She has consulted with a number of different groups, and I do know that she's committed to dealing with this issue. And then I know that my department, also Department of Justice, arranged for a separate strand of independent research on parental alienation to be carried out last year. And I'm pleased to say that a final report has been received by my department and is now being reviewed. So it's expected that both the research and the public consultation will create a deeper understanding of the issue and inform the department's consideration of policy and law in this area. And work is ongoing to integrate these strands of work, and I do expect a report outlining the outcome of the research and the consultation process and any resulting recommendations to arise from it in due course. But just to say to both deputies that you're correct, we do have to do something about this.
Thank you, Minister. We now move to question number 14. Deputy.